this is your before and after story. Prepare for an incredible career in nursing. At Southeastern College, experience expert hands-on training. Learn real-world skills in our professional lab and simulated settings. And train for opportunities as a practical nurse, registered nurse, or career advancement with our RN to BSN program. At Southeastern College, your future is bright. Visit sac.edu to get started.
When someone you love begins to lose their memory, you become a witness to a slow-motion disappearance. I saved these voicemails not just as documentation of her decline, but as artifacts of her enduring presence in my life. Even as dementia eroded her memory, altered her personality, and confused her sense of relationships, something essential remained: her desire to reach across distance, to maintain connection, to be my mother still. My name is Jenny Skoog, and this is The Silence Between Hello, a podcast about what remains when distance, faith, and memory reshape a relationship. In November 2019, 3 years before Mom died, I recorded a conversation with both of my parents at their kitchen table in Minnesota. It captures something different than the voicemails, the rhythm of their 60-year marriage, my father's quiet presence, the ordinary moments that make up a family.
Who loves who more?
Huh?
Who loves who more?
Who loved who?
Does he love you more or do you love him more?
I don't know. How do you measure that? We probably love each other the same amount.
Probably not.
Probably not?
Probably not.
Oh, you love me less?
No matter what, I tell me when you want me, worries me.
Really?
Yeah.
Don't be dumb. I tell you I love you. You never tell me you love me.
That's my parents after nearly 60 years of marriage, still navigating the question of how love is expressed and received. This glimpse into their relationship reveals so much about the models of love I grew up with: the unspoken devotion, the practical care that often substituted for verbal affirmation, the enduring commitment that transcended perfect understanding. This exchange offers a window into their relationship: the teasing affection, the lingering insecurities, the different languages they used to express love. Dad, with his cleft palate that made verbal communication difficult his entire life, showed love through constancy and practical care. Mom, more verbally expressive, wanted the words, the direct affirmation. What strikes me now is how their 60-year marriage contained this unresolved difference, this fundamental mismatch in how they expressed and received love, yet endured through all of it. They had built a life together, raised 9 children, weathered financial hardships, health crises, and the disappointment of their youngest child leaving their beloved faith. Through it all, they remained committed to each other, bound by something deeper than perfect understanding or identical love languages.
I gave my notice at work and she died. Maybe I made her die.
You made your mom die?
Maybe because she didn't want me to leave. She probably wanted me home yet. I don't know. But she died. Poor Daddy. Lived 20 years a widower. But that's how life goes.
In this fragment of conversation, Mom is talking about her own mother's death, which happened shortly after Mom gave notice at her job. The guilt she expresses, "Maybe I made her die," reveals something profound about how she understood love and responsibility. In her mind, her actions could have such power over another person that her decision to leave a job might have caused her mother's death. This sense of responsibility for others' well-being was central to Mom's worldview. It shaped how she mothered us, how she participated in the church community, and how she approached her marriage. Love for her was bound up in duty, with putting others first, with being perpetually available and attentive to needs. When Mom continues to tell the story, she mentions that her father was left 20 years a widower. Then comes Dad's story of how they met.
Then I came here and met him. So glad I met my husband. Yeah, it was just like I was a bus strike and I had to get a ride to work and I rode with him to work and started our friendship. Something how life goes.
A bus strike brought them together, one of those random circumstances that changed the course of a life. Mom needed a ride to work, Dad had a car, and a friendship began that would span more than 6 decades. What's touching about this simple story is Mom's description of being so glad to have met Dad. Despite the complicated dynamics of their relationship, there's a genuine appreciation in her voice. Then comes Dad's pragmatic response to my question about the length of their marriage.
Well, you've been more than that. Ain't many people that live with a woman for 50 years, 60 years almost.
Next year will be 60 years. And then what? Are you going to renew your vows?
Well, you know.
Do people do that?
No.
Why don't you know your vows? The vows said to death do you
58
part.
more years.
I don't need to, Dad says about renewing vows. Mom adds, the vow said till death do you part. There's a finality to their understanding of marriage, a one-time commitment that needs no renewal, no re-evaluation, no ceremonial reaffirmation. They made a promise, and that was that. This permanence shaped my understanding of relationships from an early age. In our household, the idea of divorce was almost unthinkable. It was something that unbelievers did, like Aunt Julia. Marriage wasn't primarily about romantic fulfillment or personal happiness. It was a covenant, a duty, a life sentence in both the positive and negative senses of that phrase. When I later struggled in my own marriage, this early conditioning made it exceptionally difficult to acknowledge that something was fundamentally wrong. If Mom and Dad could make it work for 60 years, shouldn't I be able to adapt, compromise, and endure? Love in my childhood wasn't overtly demonstrative. Dad's covert drive-by pinch of Mom's tush at the kitchen sink, her reaching across the front seat of the car to touch his neck, their teasing midday banter over coffee and a cookie. But they didn't call each other pet names or hold hands in public. Their affection expressed itself in practical ways. Dad warming up the car for Mom on winter mornings, Mom making sure dinner was ready when Dad came home from work, both of them attending school events, church services, and family gatherings together. When I moved to New York City and began dating, I encountered different models of relationship. Couples who were openly affectionate, who processed conflicts through long conversations, who prioritized individual fulfillment alongside commitment. These alternatives both attracted and confused me. They seemed both more honest and more fragile than the solid, unquestioning performance that my parents modeled.
Oh, hi, Jenny. Yeah, this is Mom. Thanks for those flowers. You sent us some flowers a while back, and I don't know if I ever thanked you for them, but they're just beautiful. Yeah, we're just sitting here biding time. Okay, hope everything's good. Call me. Bye.
We're just sitting here dwelling, biding time, Mom says in this message from January 2021. After 60 years together, this is what Mom and Dad's day-to-day life had become. A patient waiting, a shared dwelling in time. There's both a peacefulness and a resignation in her description. By this point, both Mom and Dad were experiencing cognitive decline. Their world had contracted to their assisted living apartment, their daily routines, their visits from nearby children and grandchildren. Yet, even in this diminished state, there was a partnership, a togetherness that remained intact.
58 more years on me and I'll be 150 years almost.
What?
You know, I think another 58 years.
58 years. You don't want to live that long.
How do you know?
I'm so old, I probably won't be able to talk anymore.
This playful exchange about longevity reveals something about their different outlooks. Dad, ever practical, calculates exactly how old he would be if he lived another 58 years. Mom dismisses the idea. You don't want to live that long, and Dad challenges her. How do you know? Mom's response is both humorous and poignant, given Dad's lifelong speech difficulties. You'll be so old you probably won't be able to talk anymore, she says. There's an easy banter here that comes from decades of knowing each other's quirks and patterns. They finish each other's thoughts, contradict each other comfortably, tease without wounding. This is the texture of a long-term relationship, not the passionate intensity of new love, but the worn, smooth familiarity of shared history. What's striking is that this comfortable rhythm persisted even as both began experiencing cognitive decline. The patterns of their interaction were so deeply grooved that they continued even as other aspects of memory and function deteriorated. I've often wondered how my parents' relationship might have been different had they met in another era, another culture, another faith tradition. Would they have chosen each other if they'd had more options, more models of relationship, more permission to prioritize personal happiness? It's impossible to know, of course. But what's clear is that they built something together that worked on its own terms. Their marriage wasn't based on perfect romantic compatibility or constant verbal affirmation. It was built on shared values, practical partnership, and an unwavering commitment to the promise they'd made. When I asked Mom in that 2019 conversation, "How do you measure love?" she responded, "I don't know." Love in their world wasn't something to be measured or evaluated. It was simply the water they swam in, the air they breathed, sometimes sustaining, sometimes suffocating, but always present.
Oh, hi, Jenny. Good, Mom. We're on our way home now, and it's kind of a bad area. Maybe, won't be able to talk. But anyway, you can try calling me. We just left Irving and Jerry, so we're heading home. Okay, bye.
This message offers another glimpse of their partnership, traveling together, navigating the world as a unit, sharing experiences and then replaying them to me. We're on our way home, Mom says, speaking for both of them as she often did. The collective we permeates so many of Mom's messages. We just got home. We went to the store. We're having breakfast. Even in their late 80s, they moved through the world together, their individual identities blended into a shared experience of life. This unity was both beautiful and at times stifling. When I left the faith, I was rejecting not just religious doctrine, but also this model of selfhood, this encompassment of individual identity into collective belonging. I wanted to discover who I was apart from the we I'd been raised in, to make decisions based on my own values and desires rather than predetermined roles. Yet, as I've grown older, I've come to appreciate aspects of my parents' relationship that once seemed alien to me. The steadfastness, the practical care, the everyday faithfulness that manifests not in grand gestures, but in showing up day after day, year after year.
What time you get up this morning?
I got up at 4 o'clock,
Oh my gosh.
New York time.
200 that be last night.
3.
3 o'clock last night. Time for you to go to bed.
Here's Dad, still concerned about my well-being even in my 40s. Time for you to go to bed, he says, when he learns I've been up since 4 a.m. New York time. This protective instinct was central to how he expressed love, through practical concern, through attention to physical needs, through small interventions aimed at making life better or safer. Mom expresses similar concern about my comfort in the basement guest room.
Oh, you went to look down there?
Yeah,
Okay.
earlier.
Okay. Probably dusty and everything, I don't know. Never cleaned down there, it's nothing to clean. Oh, you can wake up sneezing.
You might wake up sneezing, she worries, a small maternal concern that persisted even as I approached middle age. These expressions of care might seem trivial, but they represent a continuity of relationship that transcended our differences. Even though I had rejected their faith, moved far away, built a life they didn't fully understand, they still worried about whether I was getting enough sleep, whether I might sneeze from basement dust. This is a particular language of love, one expressed not through deep conversation about feeling or elaborate expression of affection, but through attention to practical comfort, physical well-being, and everyday needs. One of the most profound lessons from observing my parents' relationship was understanding that love takes many forms. There's no single right way to build a life together, no universal template that works for everyone. What matters is finding a way of relating that allows both people to feel secure, respected, and valued, even if that looks different from other relationships. For my parents, love meant showing up. It meant staying when leaving might have been easier. It meant creating a stable home for 9 children, maintaining connections with extended family, building a life centered around shared faith and community. It meant Dad fixing the leak in the kitchen sink and Mom making sure the cookie jar was never empty. It meant 6 decades of ordinary days, punctuated by births, graduations, weddings, funerals, the rhythm of a life built together. Their model wasn't perfect. There were silences when communication might have helped, compromises that sometimes felt one-sided, expectations shaped by gender roles that limited both of them in different ways. But there was also a steadfastness, a reliability, a way of building security through consistency that created its own kind of intimacy.
Oh, hi, Jenny. This is Mom. I know it's kind of late to be calling you. But then I was just sitting here, so could I call you? Okay, bye.
When I'm asked about what I learned from my parents' marriage, I often think of that moment in our 2019 conversation. Dad admitting his worry that Mom didn't love him. Mom's exasperated, "Don't be dumb," followed by her complaint that he never said "I love you." 60 years together, and still this fundamental mismatch in how they expressed and received love. Yet they had built a life, raised a family, created a partnership that sustained them both. Perhaps that's the lesson. Love isn't about perfect alignment or flawless communication. It's about choosing again and again to show up for another person in ways they can recognize and receive. It's about building something together that's stronger than individual differences and difficulties. It's about dwelling, biding time together through all the seasons of a life. I remain an outsider in many ways, the child who had rejected their faith, who had moved across the country, who had built a different kind of life. Perhaps I have become a pariah, like Aunt Julia. Yet I have felt a deep appreciation for what Mom and Dad created together, not because it was a model I wanted to replicate in my own life, but because it was authentically theirs, a genuine expression of who they were and what they valued. In the years since their deaths, I have found myself returning to that recorded conversation, listening to their voices, their laughter, their familiar patterns of speech. "Who loves who more?" I asked. And they didn't have a simple answer. Perhaps there isn't one. Perhaps love isn't something to be measured or compared, but simply lived, day by day, year by year, in whatever language makes sense to the people involved. In our final episode, we'll explore Mom's most vulnerable voicemail, her Christmas confession that she felt like a failure of a mom, and what it revealed about both her regrets and her enduring love. We'll reflect on her passing and the fullness of her life that came into view afterward, the complex legacy she left behind, and what remains when everything else falls away.